what we call classic Agile and where some organizations or want to go and what gets in the way and how these 5 types of agility can help you move forward in a better way and achieve strategic results. So today's agenda is very simple. There are only 4 things. We'll do a quick intro of ourselves. Scott is going to help facilitate a temperature check, and we'll dive straight into the 5 types of agility. And then we'll summarize and see what we can do to help you utilize these 5 types of agility in your organization. With that, Scott, it's you.
Cool. So this is us. We thought, what would it look like if Toby had hair and I didn't? And this is the result of that. And as you can see, I'm in front of a Ford GT40, starring in Fast and Furious 5. And then Toby is, what did you call it?
I don't know. Somebody called. When we shared it with our study group, they said you look like one of the musicians. What is the name of that group? Sorry, you caught me off guard. But yeah,
No,
I mean,
fine.
I don't care what it is. Toby just wants to get hair, so it doesn't matter what it is.
Right. And Toby is a wonderful guy. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for a while, actually, from conferences, going to conferences in DC in the before time. Yes, when we used to do a lot of traveling and commuting, which I'm not missing. So, yeah, my time's coming, I'm sure.
So
I'm gonna get bored and want to see you all. But
thanks, Scott.
yeah, Toby is a phenomenal agilist, agile coach, doing great things. Also runs the Agile DMV conference, which happened earlier this year, so that was cool. Or what was it? What was the name of the conference, Toby?
It was A20. So we celebrated 20 years
DMV.
of yeah.
So
Yeah, which is good.
cool.
All right, so let me introduce Scott. I mean, Scott and I, like Scott said, Scott and I know each other for a long time now. But for the last month and a half, while we were thinking about this approach and thinking about the challenges that organizations face, we've been spending a lot of time together. And one of the things that I found out is Scott is an absolute out-of-the-box thinker, hilarious guy. I mean, this guy comes up with the best one-liners ever. The fact that I have to wake up at 5 o'clock to talk to Scott because our working sessions are 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. every day. So, sometimes I come to the screen like with eyes half closed. He's so hilarious. He cracks me up. And I look forward to every session. If somebody can make you look forward to a 6 a.m. 1-hour working session together, that's Scott. So we're going to have a lot of fun together today. So let's go ahead and get started. So why are we here today? Scott, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. So we want to know what you are here to learn. So I know some of you are here to learn about general topics, but what we want to know is like, what do you think, like, why did you actually show up? What attracted you to the session? What do you think you'll get out of it? And what do you want to walk away with? And what problems do you intend to solve with it? So I know I gave you a lot to chew on, kind of broke the rule of limiting our whip here, but answer any of those questions. We would like a couple people on video to pop up and tell us with your voice, but certainly please share in the chat as well. So this session is here for you, and we're here to help you.
Hello, this is Suresh. I'm the black belt here at the site in Hawaii. And the reason I joined the call is I just want to learn more about Agile. And I thought, you know what, this is a good way. I'm always looking to learn because in my mind, the biggest thing is not the tool. How do we get people to to change the way they think, adapt, So I thought, you know what, let me listen in. I'm always looking for ways to learn, grow, add value where I am. If you think about it, I'm an overhead burden, right? So the more value I can add here is better. And that's the reason why I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks,
Cool.
Suresh.
Thanks
I
for
have a
sharing.
question.
Yeah.
Do you use decline at all in any of your meetings?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Do you use the word decline? I used to live on Oahu. I was stationed there once, and I used the word decline a lot.
No, I've been here since September, so I'm still learning the lingo here.
Small kind. Okay.
Now I'm curious. I need to find what that word means.
It means everything.
Oh, wow.
Literally everything. Like you just point decline.
Hey, Ryan, you have a new word, dude.
Decline?
No, Ryan, one of the guys who's attending, we asked him earlier, what are you looking for from the session? He said everything. So I said, you have a new word now called decline.
Yes. Yes.
And a new friend, hopefully.
Kama aina.
Cool. What else are we here to learn about? And what problems do you hope to solve with the everything that we may or may not give you?
So there's something in the chat, if I could read it out. This is from Bobby. It said, the reference to a science-based framework sounds intriguing, like you were offering a new, different approach to solve common transformation issues. Thank you, Bobby. Absolutely, we will.
Cool.
So it looks like we're up on time. Scott, is it okay if we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, this session is here for you. So if anyone else has anything they want to learn, do you just want to come and eat up our content? Is that what it is?
Actually, sorry. Hi, guys. My name is Louis. I was intrigued because I follow Scott on LinkedIn, and I find his throughput and feedback compelling. But I'm really here because I have found that staying open-minded and listening to, sort of a 360 perspective, particularly on lean and agile, has allowed me to respond to situations. I don't even know that they're going to come up, but they come up, and it's like I have a frame of reference. So I'm here to just expand that 360 frame of reference, and even if I learn just one thing, that's another tool in the tool belt. So
absolutely,
I'm here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool,
we have a note from Sashi who says, "What's going on lately in the Agile world post Kanban Scrum safe?" Absolutely. So we are going to take you on a journey beyond classic Agile, which is Kanban, safe, Scrum. And then we have another one here from Indira. It says, new ways of being Agile rather than doing Agile. Excellent. Ricardo says the headline was interesting. Curious led me here. I'm leading a safe transformation and working through issues with defining team topologies. Awesome.
And there was someone else who started speaking out. Do you want to go ahead and just jump on the horn real quick?
It was me, Ryan, but I am actually in the process of divvying out my kids' food. So you guys go ahead and continue, please.
They're not a self-organized team yet, Ryan?
9, 7, and 6. They're getting there.
Okay. They're in the
Okay,
shoe.
cool.
All right. They'll get there.
Mine are 3, 5, 8, and 9 now. We just had a birthday. So awesome. Exciting times.
When people ask me, do you have kids? I said, no, they're teenagers. I'll leave it there. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump into the topic.
Yep, and so we're going to give you our rationale for sharing too, right, Toby? You want to?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we are here today to talk about the 5 different ways of Agile, which is 5 different agility. So So what we have today is we're going to present to you part of what is the enterprise agility model. So this model is an outcome, derived when you take a holistic whole organization approach to change the organization so that you are able to achieve better business results. Especially the world we live in today is a complex, rapidly changing market, right? And business agility or enterprise agility, it's really the organization's capability to constantly adapt to what's happening in the ecosystem, what's happening around you, both locally and globally. And you got to do that without negatively impacting how your teams feel, how your teams engage, how their organizational health overall, right? Which basically is the psychological safety where you are able to create value and deliver consistently. So the question is, like, why do we need something like enterprise agility, which comprises of the 5 types of agility, right? So a couple of things here is that, as we know, organizations, when they're transforming, they put way too much focus on just process and technology, and often ignoring the human side of change or not giving it enough importance. And what ends up happening is there's a lot of resistance to change. And whatever you had planned from a strategy perspective for transformation, either they get slowed down or they plateau or they crash. And what we are here to talk about today is how can we take this further and think about what do we really need to be able to bring about that kind of a change. And what we're going to present to you today is 5 types of agility. It starts with mental agility, which is the foundation of it. And then there are 4 different other agility types that come with that. So it's, we have technical agility. We're going to talk more about it. What are the outcomes we're looking for? The hierarchy and the structure. How can you be agile in that area? And then social agility. So these are the 5 types of agility that we're going to talk about today. And this model, so while the 5 types of agility is the central focus of it, it is supported by individuals or human beings. So it's very human-centric, very people-centric, and it is supported by strategic innovation. Not just innovation, not just sustainable innovation, but innovation that helps to support the organization strategic goals. Where do you want to be, or where does the organization want to be? And how can we, as leaders of the organization, use these 5 types of agility to continuously innovate? And last but not least is the exponential markets, right? The market is changing, the market conditions are changing, and that triggers a lot of change. What was true, 3 years ago or 10 years ago is not true anymore, right? I mean, you go to different presentations, they talk about Blockbuster, they talk about other organizations that fail to innovate, and they just got, they're no longer in business. But if you look at today, so many organizations are focusing on getting better, on focusing on innovation, focusing on their people, focusing on investing in the technical and architecture that is going to help sustain growth going forward. So that really, in a nutshell, is what the enterprise agility model. It ties together these 5 types of agility supported by human beings, innovation that is sustainable and continuous and strategic. And with that, we are able to take care of whatever is happening in the market. We're ready, we're nimble. If there is a change, we are open to that. So with that, let's get started. Who wants to eat some cake? We have a beautiful mango chocolate cake ready for you. So this is what it is we're going to talk about in the next few slides, but we really want to make it very engaging. We're going to have a conversation. So the way we've stacked the cake is the foundation of any agility in the organization, we believe, is the mental agility, right? Your ability to change and your ability to be a change agent in your organization to help others overcome the fear of change and take on change, right? And so that's the mental agility part. We're going to go deeper in the next few. Next comes the social agility. A lot of times during transformation or even during operations, we see that communication really is a struggle. It continues to be a struggle in a lot of organizations. It is difficult even with static conditions when a transformation is going on, when you're trying to move from wherever you are to become enterprise agility or business agility. The need for communication becomes even stronger, right? So how do you do that? What are the social connections? How do you make those connections is what we're going to talk about. Next, we're going to talk about outcomes. The outcomes agility is about really focused, strategically driven work that results in meeting the strategic objectives. So no matter how much turbulence is thrown at you, no matter how many wrenches are thrown at you, you are able to go forward. So this is where you're being nimble and focused on the 8-ball really comes to picture here. Next is the structural agility. This is where organizations need to understand that changes need to be made to the way the hierarchy is set up. So if you're coming straight from a very waterfall or traditional kind of hierarchy, there's going to be a lot of command and control style. If this organization has already adopted some level of agile, they are moving towards a more self-organized, self-managed kind of situation there. But for you to now move to the whole enterprise being agile, there have to be other structural changes. There have to be changes in some of the procedures, and most important, an openness to experimenting, right? So that's your structural agility. And then the technical agility. Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right architecture to support the transformation that you're seeking to become more enterprise agile, or even to go from one level of agility to the other? So that is the tasty cake that we have, the mango and chocolate cake, gentlemen and ladies. We're going to jump to now technical agility. This is our first. We're going to take the cake from top. And the way we look at it is, right, what is technical agility? If you take a step back, I mean, most of us who are on this call today, a lot of us are from IT. When I say IT, I mean, we are from software development, we are in that realm. But when we are trying to make a holistic change in the whole organization, where does technology play a role? So the simple definition that we have here is, I'm going to read it, changing software as quickly, economically, and securely as possible. And by software, really what we mean is solutions, delivering software. So what is this all about, right? This is about using technology for creating a competitive edge for your organization. Now, not all organizations are software companies, but last year I read an article which said all companies are software companies. Every company is using software. There's hardly any organization in the world that doesn't use technology, which makes it every organization is a software company. So what does it take? So it requires the right balance of technology, hardware skills, innovation, hardware, and the right cadence to be able to deliver high quality solutions, whether you're producing software or you're producing other products to the market. And the whole idea is that you should be able to manage and produce these solutions effectively, securely, efficiently, and then also be able to do it iteratively. And that's where Agile comes into the picture. So what, why does it work? Why is technical agility important? And why should we look at it from this lens? Now, the reason for that is that technical agility enables the organization to stay aligned to its strategic goals because it is supported with new technology which is coming up, right? I mean, years ago, what used to take 2 weeks to do and maybe 4 people, with the technological advancements that we have so far, a lot of that work has become shrunk, right? And now with artificial intelligence, robotic automation, it's going to get even more faster, right? The ability to do some of those repetitive tasks are going to be much faster in the next couple of years. So if your organization is not able to take advantage of these advancements that's happening in the marketplace, you're going to be, stuck behind. And we don't want you to be stuck behind. So how does technical agility help you to get unstuck? So simple things, right? Think about legacy software that doesn't work with the new apps, the modern technologies available. Think about organizations who don't do a good job about refactoring, about their technical debt. Think about organizations that are not investing in the right types of technology or training their people to do that, or hiring the people with those skills that is needed, or organizations that are not replacing manual work with this automation. So what can you try? Like when this workshop is over, you go back to work tomorrow. What are some of the things that you can look at from a technical agility perspective, especially when you're trying to make a transformation or you're trying to go from point A to point B? So the question that came to mind when Scott and I were discussing this is, okay, what struggles does your organization have today that technology can solve, but currently it does not? I'm going to repeat that. What struggles does your organization have today that technology can possibly solve, but currently does not? Because either you have not employed or used the new technology, or you've used it, but you're not utilizing the whole gamut, like the strength and the capabilities of that. So with that, I'm going to move forward where Scott is going to walk us through and hear some of the things that you guys are experiencing in your organizations. Scott?
Yeah, so as you heard Toby discuss what technical agility is, and I think this is the one of the 5 that I think that we're all the most familiar with. But where are your organizations still struggling with respect to technical agility?
Scott, so we have some things in chat. Sashi says way too many tools.
Yep, too many tools. Anyone else struggle with that?
Yeah, I'll echo what Shashi said. Too many tools makes it difficult, I think, for some of our customers to figure out the right path. Tough to hire talent that is skilled in those tools. And when they change 6 months after they make their first decision, you have to reskill everybody all over again, which creates frustration and a lot of churn for us.
Yeah, and Ricardo says COTS applications, monolithic architecture.
Yeah, custom off-the-shelf software. Who here has a Rube Goldberg machine of vendor software that who knows where it could fail? Right.
Yeah. Bobby says battle between compliance and automation. Rahul says having technical debt to move forward. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. You don't take care of your technical debt, you are going to be stuck. Anything else?
Yeah, we know there's some other ones out there. Where else are you struggling technically with your agility?
Niranjan says building team and collective ownership to perform technical practices.
Anyone want to come on voice and tell us where you're struggling? Because we want this to be interactive.
I'll jump in. Legacy systems.
For sure.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jeremy here. I don't mind jumping in. I'm on a walk. But in the organization I'm at, many teams have selected their own software. So there's a lot of tool overlap. And then getting the teams to agree on which tools they want to use or creating those standards has been challenging.
So as you're hearing some of these responses, what are some of the things you've tried to do to fix some of these things? What have you done to try to fix some of these challenges so that they're not so burdensome?
Okay, while he's preparing his response, there are a couple more here, Scott, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Louis says top-down corporate management, not DevOps enabled. And then Rahul says, a lot of struggle with shift left mindset. Yep.
Sure. What else? What have you tried to do to fix any of these things? Or I imagine some of us feel stuck, like we don't understand how to even begin to start to influence some of these things. But what have you tried that maybe hasn't worked?
This is Louis. I can't speak to what other folks have done, but I can say that in situations, I've seen it across several engagements. You do the best you can and really, get a team, a Scrum team or a Kanban team, productive and working, and then you get to deployment, and it's not CI/CD, and you have to go through all this insane documentation and redocumentation to try to get it into production. And it's where the two mindsets clash, which is Agile and I guess waterfall. I understand the need to protect the production environment, but there's got to be a better way. To try to fix it, the only way I have is to build relationships. Maybe that's the social agility with the guys on the other side in the production and operations areas. And you get to know each other, and you cut each other a break after a while, but nothing formal.
Hey, Scott, couple more. Try to define an architecture with a set of tools. This is from Sashi. Niranjan says, bring them to surface through BVIR to promote conversations.
Yeah.
BVIR?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, sorry. Thank you, Tony. Toby, this is Niranjan here. So essentially, any delays, we add it in our impediment register, and then our impediment register is like a big visual information radiator that everybody has access to. So we promote the conversation through team retrospectives or through other forums to bring those issues, right? And start conversation around it.
Great. Scott, are you good to move forward? I want to be mindful of time.
Yeah. Any last words on this one? Cool.
So we have one quick one from Ricardo. Identify the end-to-end value stream and optimize the interactions between functional area via Kanban and where possible automation. Excellent.
Cool. So we have a quick one for you as well.
Oops.
Oh, do we not have? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So immature release management practices. Right.
Yep.
Now, the thing with technical agility is that some of these challenges, like immature release management practices, it may not resonate with you specifically. Toby, what are you doing, buddy?
I'm sorry, my bad.
You're giving them spoilers, man.
I know.
It's
Sorry,
all
sorry.
good.
My apologies.
It's all good.
I'll buy you a beer later.
Thank
Was
you.
that release of information a little immature?
Yes. Sorry, my
Perfect.
mouse. I blame my mouse technology.
All good. But yeah, like I think the real challenge with technical agility isn't that, we have these challenges that everyone brought up. And at the same time, a lot of times technical agility is where we actually excel with Agile. And the reason is because in a lot of organizations, like organizations that are kind of mature with respect to Agile or agility, they invest a lot in technology because they know the value of it. But the challenge here isn't the individual things that everyone's challenged with. It's that we're missing the mark on the 4 other types of agility where change is crucial. Does that make sense? Anyone disagree? I'm kidding. We don't have time. No. We want to hear your thoughts. And again, use the chat. Liberal use of the chat will help us help you. Make sense? Cool. So on to the next one. Toby, you want to take it away?
Yes, give me 1 sec. I have some technical challenge here with my slide. Give me 1 second. I apologize for that.
Anyone have a say in this while Toby's figuring that out?
I was wondering if we had any Scrum Masters in the house that could help remediate this impediment that Toby has right now.
No, I got it. I got it. All right, so let's move to structural agility now that we understood a few things about technical agility. So structural agility really is, the ability of an organization to constantly evaluate and change the way the structure, the hierarchical structures of the organization are, the processes, the procedures. And what is most important is that organizations need to get to a stage where they can run experiments without, without really impacting its people too much, without impacting the organizational health. Think about partnerships, think about strategical and also tactical aspects of planning, think about budgets, think about how these projects are being funded. What is the vision of the organization? What are the values? What are some of the processes and ways of working? So that's what structural agility is about. Most of the time when we think structure, we just think of hierarchies, but it's just not hierarchy. It's just, all the other things that I mentioned. So why is it important, right? It's important because, as we know, change is the only constant, right? Our ecosystem, our market conditions, technology, priorities, sometimes even the leadership changes. And if you don't have the right structural agility, which means that as an organization, if you're not able to make those changes in a quick and fast enough manner, you will be stuck, right? So think about it from the business value perspective. Organizations which are faster will change faster, will change their structures to adjust to the marketplace. Organizations who are slow will not change, and they will still be doing things that the way they did years ago, and that's where they will get stuck. So you want to, some of the areas that come to mind is like handoffs, right? Command and control style, procedural delays. How long does it take to make a simple decision? And areas where you want to try is, for example, let's take, for example, you have a person in your team, for example, maybe a technical lead, and how do you, if that person is, using very command and control kind of style, how do you change that from command and control to being a true servant leader where it's cross-pollinating skills, helping other people understand, developers taking pride in testing, and everything else that related to that. So procedures, hierarchy, everything else is related to that. Does that make sense? So that's structural agility. Scott, you want to take away here, talk about structural agility here?
Hey, Toby, Priya here. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Scott, you're on mute, by the way. Hey, Priya, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself, Toby?
Good, doing well.
A quick question. You just talked about when you were explaining or talking about structural agility, you mentioned something which is like changing the mindset of developers testing, right? Or taking pride in testing. So one, if it is part of structural agility, have you experienced, or anybody here in the group has experienced that? Does it happen really quick? Or anybody, if you could just give me an idea. I have been working with a lot of teams. I've been a Scrum Master for quite some time, but this is one thing that I have never experienced or have never seen. However hard you try, yes, team does agree, but that mindset change is really difficult. So practically, does it really happen?
So I just want to clarify real quick. So the reason I brought it up here, and honestly speaking, these 5 types of agility, sometimes they overlay, right? It's not hard and fast, like it's watertight, right? Some of these 5 types of agility play well with each other and integrate. So while it could be more of a mental agility, but here in this case, the reason I brought it up, Priya, and good catch, the reason I brought it up is because when you're changing the hierarchical structures of organizations and changing the hierarchical structures of the teams, that means a slight mind shift also has to happen. So if you come from a very command and control type of position or a role where you're telling people what to do, whereas in an agile team is self-organized or self-managed, the new word now, how do you get to do that? And how do you make that hierarchical change? That's where I was coming from. Okay. But yes, if anybody in the audience wants to answer that, please do. Thanks, Priya. Good question.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah. So, and we'll talk about another type of agility that will help with that later on. So stay tuned. Cool. So based on what Toby said about structural agility, what problems do you think that this can help you solve?
I feel like it's my way of communication, right, at this point, because helping my organization like introduce the scale was a nightmare, because there was me on the business side with project managers and the technology half, and it was like this 3-way battle for who gets to be placed where. And I've noticed the middle managers that weren't placed but have resources that are in, I guess, the currently drawn out positions are actually using their manager influence to direct and guide without any agile knowledge. They're basically just reading stuff from a book, and structurally is fraying everything. And we have an agile coach who actually perpetuates this type of culture. And me representing business, I feel like the structural agility is becoming more of my forte area in a sense. I feel like I understand this. And I don't want to be that guy, but it's just like I feel like the technology guys are not seeing the importance of why there needs to be a good and tight structure, and those that are in it need to function, and those that are outside of it, just slow your roll for just a second, because we're still building this pyramid. But I see fear being the root cause of these fractures, and it's kind of hard to convince somebody, especially as young as I am, convincing somebody that's a seasoned vet in the corporate, environment, and trying to explain to them that it's going to be okay, or they're potentially SOL, and what their new function is and what they need to do. And, I feel like they come to me for guidance and or coaching, but then they'll just go in one ear and out the other. I don't know. It's just like, I feel like interaction with some of these folks is just futile after a while.
Yeah. And I like what you said, right? We're still building it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the mindset that we all need to have. But at the same time, we have to understand that there are people that are trying to prevent us from continuing to build it. And while we may not necessarily do with those people what we want to do, or, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I wish I could see them self-select out, but that's not always going to be the case. So we have to see what we can do to get them to self-select in, right? There is always hope. The hardest hearts can be changed, right? If we know the right skills to do that.
Hey, Scott, we have something in the chat here real quick. Ricardo says, is structural agility about organizing business and technology teams for fast flow? And then he continues, it says, at scale, defining the taxonomy of the team structure, any experience with leveraging Matthew Skelton's book, Team Topologies, where they begin to define different type of team topologies necessary for fast flow, stream aligned teams, enabling teams, platform teams, etc.
Yep.
And then we have one from Trey. It says, are you placing focus, trying to help influence a few small changes, or trying to implement all the structure at once?
Oh no, we're taking this bit by bit. Introducing too much agility is absolute chaos.
Yeah.
100%.
Cool. Great questions, great comments. I'm going to move forward.
And Toby has a very agile mouse, so please pardon his mouse for being so. It's too agile.
Hyperactive mouse.
And so we identified this one, right? Organizational silos block progress, right? And here's the thing, like, we are in a time where the way we do business is changing, right? New technologies are emerging, like we talked about earlier, new ways of working together and new ways of doing things is constantly being created. There's always something new. Who here struggles because like the team just discovered a new tool and they want to start using it, right? Like, that's awesome. If it adds value to our teams and our customers, we want to be able to have the ability to adopt that, right? We want to have structures in place that are not impediments to that adoption, right? But one thing we know is that the traditional project model, with the occasional support from the business side of the organization, that's no longer the most effective or efficient way to work today, right? I mean, it creates silos that leads to bad results, because projects tend to be too big up front with no room for changes along the way, right? That's where structural agility comes in handy. Again, it's bit by bit and piece by piece, but this is the way forward.
Cool. So let's move forward to outcomes agility. So what is outcomes agility? So this is really about making your strategic vision more tactical and resilient. One of the challenges that I've seen in organizations is that the vision or the roadmap that the leaders have in mind, sometimes that's not communicated well enough, and it doesn't really come down to the team level. In the last few years, we've seen a huge rise in use of OKRs and KPIs. I don't know if we've seen real results yet. There are definitely strides in the right direction. But the whole idea of outcomes agility is to make your strategy more tactical, more practical, more pragmatic, and bring it down to a level where your frontline people are able to make decisions and make changes or experiment, so that when external challenges happen, the problems happen, you don't have to go all the way to the leadership to make those changes. And not only that, aligning different departments, partners to be working together, which may involve, budgeting, product managers, security, marketing, everybody to work together towards the common goals. It is needed because you need to develop leadership on all levels, and frontline people who can make those decisions. Because the market changes are constant, they happen. Technological changes are often, and sometimes things like what happened recently or last year in March was COVID-19, right? Everybody had to make those changes. And everybody got focused on, okay, we still have our goals, we still have our purpose. How do we still achieve that? And I think to me, a lot of times people get confused between program outputs and outcomes, and they're not the same, right? And you have to educate and help and coach your team members to understand the difference, as well as the connection between the outputs that come from teams and how does that align to the outcome that the organization is looking for. For example, let's say you have 2 releases, every quarter. I think the question to ask is not that you had 2 successful releases, but also to understand, what difference did these releases make for your customers, for your market, the financial state of your organization. If all you delivered was code, then you're failing. You need to be delivering successful outcomes, experiences to your market. And that will help you get a bigger market share, more loyalty from your customers. And that's going to be so important, right? So very outcomes focused. And that doesn't come easily. You have to make that bridge between strategy and tactical execution of the teams. And Scott, I will be careful with my mouse. I'm going to do a simple click. There you go. I'm getting better at this.
So yeah, where is outcomes agility going to help you fix some of the problems in your organizations? Come into mind. And again, this is a face-to-face conversation, even though we got the slides up. I kind of wish I could put those in a little window. If anyone knows how to do that, I would love to hear that. But yeah, where do you feel this would come in handy for you?
Hey, Scott, we have one here from Ricardo. He says, would you recommend the use of OKRs to develop outcomes-centric teams and organizations?
So I don't want to get too deep in the OKRs versus KPIs, but like with respect to OKRs, right? The objectives are very aspirational, but the key results are the tactical side of that. So you've got a little bit of strategy, you've got a little bit of tactics, right? And as you know, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Or maybe you don't know that, but maybe you're hearing it for the first time, and that's true, right? So outcomes for Agile teams, I'm not going to say that it should be an OKR format per se, right? How are you going to measure, for example, that a team understands the use of metrics to begin with? Let's say understanding the use of metrics is an outcome for your transformation, right? How do you measure that? Right? If that was the objective, what would the key result be?
We have another comment, Scott. It's from Rahul. It says, prefer to adopt smart strategic agility.
Yeah, Raul, can you come on and tell us what you meant by that? Please.
Hey everyone, actually I'm running outside, but anyhow. So
all good, all good.
Yeah, so for example, I'm not giving any IT example here. So I am very much hungry. Okay, so I get some salad. So hopefully I definitely get the food is the output, but I get my my.
Rahul, you're breaking up. Can't hear you. Rahul, can you hear us?
No. The outcome I'm receiving from that food. So similar way in the organization also, it might be the moving from the output to outcome culture. So that's, I'm just thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah, you can chime in also, please, Scott and Toby.
Anyone else want to jump in and give their thoughts on this? Okay, well, we've got one for you. And it's not social agility. Who struggles with antiquated funding models? Right, the way we fund software projects is broken. Right, we've been doing the same way for decades, and now it is time to change. Right, projects are becoming products, but their funding models are still stuck in the past. Right, where instead of funding teams to deliver value continuously, big upfront budgeting is required. That's not helpful, right? Who's had a project that recently lost funding? One in the chat if you had a project that recently lost its funding, maybe in the last year. Right? How much value is being delivered now?
Mm-hmm. Adam says more than one.
More than one. So, yeah, I mean, this is where outcome agility helps you shift the way that products are built and funded, right? It offers a more strategic focus on team-based funding models. And part of that is, yeah, it builds in margin for teams to engage in continuous learning so that they can adapt as quickly as they go along on their, value delivery journey, right? Building that margin in for learning is crucial if we want to be able to continuously adapt. Makes sense.
Awesome. So let's move to social agility. This is the second to last. So what is social agility? This really is about all the connections that you make, your network, socialization that you do, both within and outside your organization to be able to achieve your strategic goals. So it really involves connecting well with people so that you are able to have those conversations. You're able to work with people who are working in your organizations or who are receiving services and products from your organization. And being able to connect with people really requires what we call in Agile Jimba walk, which basically, get out of your office, connect with people, talk to people. It can involve your emotional intelligence and your social awareness and how you are able to understand yourself and apply that in how you show up for others. So, creating shared knowledge, shared values is very important in an organization. And most of the time we see challenges, like silos. We see challenges like each department kind of becomes selfish towards its own goals versus understanding the holistic goals of the organization, is because they don't understand, or they're not bought into the shared values and where the whole organization has to go. And especially in enterprise agility or business agility, we are trying to take our organization to the next level high, right? And without this, right, without social agility, communications typically get broken down, right? It doesn't happen. The transparency stops. There can be, teamwork cannot be accomplished. The culture can get diluted. In fact, communication from top to bottom doesn't happen. A lot of times it reaches the next level and then it doesn't go to levels lower. And a lot of times the communication doesn't go upwards either, because whatever the team members are saying, it gets stuck with middle management and it doesn't get passed on. So for communication to flow better, right, you have to have informal modes of communication. And informal modes of communication work best when there is a whole lot more trust, right? So you're not just typing a 2-page email and sending it across to the whole organization. That is the most ineffective way of communication. Most people don't even read those emails. But when you're having conversations one-on-one, and obviously before COVID, our styles of communication was a lot more different, right? You could just walk to somebody's desk and chat with them or talk to them. Or I've seen a huge shift in the last few years in the way we communicate. If I need something from somebody, maybe 5 years ago, my go-to method would have been to send an email. Now my go-to method is, or used to be before COVID-19, to walk to somebody's desk. And now it is like Teams or Zoom or so many different ways in which you can communicate. And the beauty is that, like, when you have social agility happening, which means that people trust each other, there is a whole family-like atmosphere where people trust each other, communication flows so much better. So where does it help? How does it help us to get unstuck? So I think it removes any challenges with transparency by creating that transparency. Everybody knows where I'm coming from. It improves engagement, and it can help you, right? I mean, like tomorrow when you go to your organization, think about, what is the social structure of your organization? I think of, cafeterias before COVID-19, right? I used to always notice who's sitting with who for lunch, right? In some organizations, we see all the managers sitting together and all the employees sitting in another corner of the cafeteria. And in some organizations, I've seen, the VPs, the directors, and the team level people, they're all sitting together and having lunch and chatting. And that says a lot about that organization, right? I feel that that's a better socially knit organization where people of different hierarchy are able to communicate and chat with each other. There are activities that happen after work. There are team building activities that are happening. And you're not just doing these activities for the sake of it. People actually want to spend time with each other. So those, such organizations are a lot more successful, right? And then there are COPs, which is communities of practice. There are COEs, communities of excellence. Those things also really help in bonding people together and improving their communication with each other. And organizations where the communication flows better because of better social connections, such organizations are likely to succeed.
Cool. So based on that, like, where do you feel problems exist in your organization that social agility is going to help you better understand and fix?
There's a lot of oppressive type of ambiance I've noticed with some of my technology partners. And when we started standing up the new like our pilot teams, essentially, like, I had to do a monkey see, monkey do, and bring a lot of people to my daily scrums or any of my other events because I'm extremely theatrical. It's a good time. And getting that family vibe, it's so difficult when you have a room full of individuals that are afraid to just say anything. So we've tried to get managers out of the way and create the most comfortable environments. And it actually came to the, like, even though I'm Mr. Positive, I have to stay out of the meetings now because of what my position is. And it's like position silences the creativity or the how personal one could make these situations. But as long as they start feeling comfortable, I've encouraged all of the scrum masters to ask just random questions throughout the day and get to know, especially while we're doing everything virtually, and just get to know your team on a personal level. What's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? Just start a random conversation that has nothing to do with work and just kind of build trust step by step. And after a while, it becomes second nature to have these types of conversations. And then the teams start to form around that level of trust. And then there's this explosion of output because the teams are comfortable talking to each other. There's no lack of transparency. I mean, it's slow, but it takes about a month or so, I guess, to crack some individuals. But then there's an expectation, and I think that's the biggest pressure on me. It's Ryan, he's running these events. If I'm ever down or just not really feeling it that day, it will affect everybody's output. But if I go into my meetings and I do my Good Morning Vietnam intro, it wakes everybody up and there's an increase. And I hate bottlenecking like that, but I also enjoy it. So, I try to put on a mask if I ever have to. But the social aspect and, some of the soft skills that are not as mentioned, especially where I'm at, if they were emphasized a little bit more, I'm willing to put my job on a dramatic increase of morale and overall agility. Sorry, that was really long-winded, but yay.
Go you. That's cool. Anyone else want to share?
We have one.
All right. We have one. Anyone struggle with this? Communication still sucks. Is anyone immune to this? No, I don't think so. Right. So, I mean, where social agility gets you unstuck is that, people in your organizations they don't connect in a random pattern, right? They don't connect because they want to share information or ideas, right? Who do we have? Who's still on video? Did everyone turn their video off? I was going to do a little exercise, but
So Sashi has one. It says too much or too less communication.
yeah, too much where it's not needed, right? Over communicating.
Yep.
And definitely too little, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so as I was saying, right, like it's not random how we communicate. We actually communicate not because we want to share information or ideas, but because we have things in common with people. It's a concept called social capital, and it helps you build better relationships with others inside your organization. So social agility helps organizations understand why people interact with each other and how they can improve those interactions to get more business value out of it for the company, right? And for the customers, right?
It looks like Suruchi has a question. Oh, sorry, Scott.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Thanks, Toby. So I don't have a question, but I would like to share some light on the thoughts that Scott just now provided. I mean, too less or too much communication. So this is a relative term, right? I mean, how can we say that for some teams, less communication works really well because they are already self-managed. So for those teams, like in Scrum meetings and ceremonies, if as a Scrum Master, if you don't talk much, still they keep continuing their work. They need least interference. They need least conversations, and still the things happen on time, very well and smooth. Of course, there are some impediments. However, there are some teams they would love to have more communication. So it's like they like if we talk more, if we try to be more personable through communication. So it varies. I think it is completely based on which team you are handling. And luckily I was able to handle both kind of teams, so I was able to differentiate both, like okay, they don't like me if I talk a lot, or no, this group they wants me to talk a lot, like that.
Yep, I like how you're understanding the adaptability of your role, right? And keep in mind that this is enterprise agility. It is across the organization. So yeah, your teams may have good communication inside of their cocoon, but how is that communication across teams? How is it with the business side of things, right? This is where a lot of people they struggle, right?
Yep.
One of the things that I recommend is mitigate your use of why, right? Mitigate it from your language. I'm not saying eliminate it, but mitigate it for sure. So you might be saying to yourself, why, Scott? Why eliminate this word? Why? Well, if you think about it, our parents conditioned us with a negative connotation of this word, right? And of course, we know Simon Sinek. So there are times when it makes sense when you're talking about why as a concept, but when you ask why, it has that negative connotation. So when someone isn't handling change well, the first thing you want to do is diffuse their complaint, right? And then you want to relate a shift of perspective, right? This is something tactical that you can take with you tomorrow to work and give it a try. For everyone, I'm not just talking to Suruchi, but like diffuse their complaint, right? And relate a shift of perspective. So what does that work? How does that work? Okay. I don't know. Here's an example for Scrum Masters. To an Agile coach per se, sometimes they say, hey, can you run our retrospective? Agile coach would say, sure, I can run your retrospective. What seems to be the challenge, right? So you're diffusing their complaint, and then you're offering a shift of perspective. So someone might say, oh, Agile is just an excuse to take longer to do the work. how might you respond to that? How would you diffuse that complaint and offer a shift of perspective? Anyone want to take a stab? So you could say something like, you know, I thought the same thing actually at first. Could I show you what caused my change of heart? Right. There's other ways you can say it. Like, I think I see where you're coming from. You know, I used to believe the same thing. Can I share the perspective that shifted how I view it?
Got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That's an excellent
Sometimes
tactic.
sometimes it's as simple as, yeah, I agree with you, and reiterate only the part of the statement that you agree with, because words are loaded, right? Then say, hey, can I show you an alternate perspective?
Hey, Scott, that's beautiful. And I think that's a perfect segue to our
Yes.
mental agility, the next one. So let's
I agree.
think about what mental agility is. So what is that, right? So that is connecting. It's all about connecting. So it's the mental agility is really your way of your ability to adapt and learn new ways of doing things, right? It helps people condition their minds to accept change. The challenge that happens in organizations is when we are trying to bring about any kind of change. Human beings in general don't like change, right? Um, they try to oppose change. They try to procrastinate change as much as possible, and that's because there is an inherent fear of change. Human beings try to not change. So, as leaders, as agilists, what we need to do is to help our team members be a little more open to change and make changes smaller in size. As somebody else pointed out earlier, you don't want to do big bang changes. You want to do small iterative changes and help your teams take in that change and make that into a habit. So mental agility, provides that ability to take in changes. And something that you just said earlier, Scott, so beautifully is, yes, you have a person who's disagreeing with a certain way of doing things. But if you disagree with him, that is going to become a bigger conflict. But then if you're able to, win that person over by saying, you know what, I used to think the same way, and now you're offering how you changed so that the person can learn from you, right? And that is going to result in a win-win situation. And mental agility is so important. And sometimes, nowadays, so many mergers and acquisitions are happening. This week, I came to know about an organization who I worked for in 2007 has been acquired by different companies and now has become a 22,000 employee company. Imagine, what kind of mental agility you would need to survive and do well in that organization, because so many cultural changes have happened in that organization. It's so difficult just going through small transformation. So the whole idea is, right, when you get stuck, mental agility gives you the power to overcome that resistance to change, right? It helps move your people from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And obviously, it's easier said than done, right? The whole idea is for you to empathize with your team, to look at things from their perspective, and then, bringing in help. For example, something as simple as making the changes small, helping them while they're going through that change curve, and helping them to experiment and say, you know what, experiment. If you fail, it's okay. Being open to failure, if the leadership portrays that behavior and the teams are able to make small changes, and if there are small failures in between, And if people don't make a big deal out of it, they will feel a lot more courageous to make those changes, right? So we need to definitely support them through this whole change. So an example that comes to mind is, right, how do you deal with a stakeholder who does not want to come to a demo and instead wants you to send them a status report every week, right? So that their thing is, I don't want to come to your demo. Why don't you just send me a status report? So you have to understand what are the needs of this person, where is this person coming from, what has changed for this person, and then being able to bring a mind shift change slowly so that this person understands the value of these demos and starts attending your demos. So that's the idea here. So in the interest of time, I'm going to move to the next one here. One too many. Okay, that's mental agility. Scott, you're mute.
Quote of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where's this going to help you? Thoughts? What's coming to mind? What struggles are you faced with where mental agility is going to change your game?
Oh, hey, it's Ryan. I'll
Oh,
jump in
man.
again. I'll jump in again. My biggest issue right now is with the coach because that's my blocker. I can't do anything if it goes against the coach. And we had a bit of a disagreement, very nice one, but I still highly disagreed with their approach. But I kind of want to tap into them because there's a lot of pride behind this individual, and I'm not discrediting any of their knowledge up until they involve themselves in our particular organization, like our culture, what we do. So I've been doing this for 2 years now, and they just came in because technology was like, hey, we got a resource, we got a coach, so we're just gonna put this coach over everybody, and then they're gonna start shot calling and setting us up. Great job. But now fundamentally they're slipping, and there's this all or never. And after hearing what you guys just said, I've never once validated them to ease them to maybe possibly pulling them back into, hey, this is reality, not, your model isn't going to work as good as you're trying to make it after this point. And I'm trying to convey this message to get the kind of to give them feedback so we can all, but I've never validated in such a sense. I feel like my why is very confrontational. So, where I need help, I guess, is how to engage with other agilists that are, for a lack of a better word, evangelists.
100%.
Yep.
Right. Part of this and part of what we teach in the bigger course is find your champions, find the colleagues who will fight alongside you, right? Yeah, so difficulty scaling the agile mindset, right? This is a challenge that we all face, right?
Yep.
Especially when it comes to the greater organization, right? When we want to see designers adopt agile, when we want to see HR adopt agile, when we want to see the business adopt agile. And by the way, it is all possible using these techniques, right? But yeah, I mean, when it comes to this, right? This stuff it's challenging. It takes some upskilling in these, not just these 5 types of agility, right? But, I like to say it like this: the mind is like a muscle. We have to help people exercise it, right? They're going to get it. They're going to get stronger at this, right? But we have to actually exercise it. But as with real exercise, we hate it. We hate to do it until we're used to it, right? And you can't just throw a 30-pound dumbbell at people and expect them to be stronger, right? If you do that, you're a dumbbell. No, I'm kidding. But does that make sense though? One in the chat if this is making sense and you're still with us and alive and you're loving what we have to say.